This is Tuesday, May 10th. There are 74 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2016. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
VANUHTEE, go. Oh my god, I love live journal and my live journal.
Good evening. I am your host, James Riley. Joining me on the podcast tonight, Kerry Dixon. The return to recreation required.
Woo, I guess.
She's not even ready to get back to work.
No, I'm really not.
And also, Ben Kucharski, building blocks of boxes behind his back.
Hi, guys.
There's nothing but a bunch of squares behind you.
Nothing.
All right. First off, as we mentioned, let's everyone welcome Kerry back from vacation. Welcome back!
Welcome back!
I think
All
James
right,
might be
all
the
right.
most excited of everyone.
Enough of that. Let's get to the news. I'm just kidding. How was vacation?
It was good. I feel like I made a terrible mistake by going on vacation in May because now I'm just tired. And it only gets harder from here.
I say you're going to be tired for 2 months now.
Yeah, so that was probably not the greatest plan on my part, but
You had a good time.
I had a good time. I got to see Hamilton, so it was worth it.
Yay! That's amazing. How did you even pull that off?
I bought my tickets in October for
Wow.
May.
And so you had to have been ahead of the curve because it's ridiculous now, right?
It's insane. Like, there were people behind us who were talking like they spent $1,000 each on their tickets, and I'm just like, good lord.
Wow.
I did not pay that.
Wow.
But it was really good. The audience, though, I gotta say, was like the most disrespectful audience I've ever seen at a play.
Uh,
And I
Hard to
don't.
believe.
I know. I don't know, like, what it was. I feel like, though, it was partly the theater's fault, because, like, aside from Comic-Con, I love the theater. I really do. It's my other love. But most theaters, like, they won't seat you late. But the way it worked at the Richard Rogers Theater was they let anybody in at any point. So a bunch of people would come in late, and of course they're not sitting on the end of the aisle, they're sitting in the middle, so then everybody has to stand up to let them in like, the middle of the play. It was just awful. And then the one that killed me, though, was a guy in front of me and like 2 seats over, middle of a song, stands up to take off his jacket. Like, who does this?
people raised in a barn.
Who does this? So
Wow.
Hamilton was amazing, but when we left, my friend and I were both just like, all we could talk about was how much we wanted to kill that audience.
Wow. I think that might be like a sign of the times thing or the beginning of the apocalypse or something because I went to the Ellie Goulding concert in Phoenix and it was like a 2-hour drive there and my ticket was $70 and it was totally worth it. I wanted to see her like 1,000,000 times and she's been to Arizona 1,000,000 times. And these girls, these yappy like sorority girls behind me just talked. Like they talked during her performance like they really had stuff that they wanted to say to the other ones and the other ones really wanted to hear the things that they had to say. And I did
It was
that,
very important, Ben.
and I did that thing where I got angrier and angrier.
Yes!
And
You just sit there and stew.
they met Rage Ben and they were quiet for the rest of the night. I felt bad, but their bad behavior created my bad behavior, and that's somehow a justification.
Yes,
My-
exactly.
My friend went with me, but again, because it's Hamilton, and she booked her tickets 2 weeks after mine, we couldn't like get seats together, so she was 2 rows behind me. The people behind her, there was a girl who was like singing during part of it, like singing along, and my friend was like, "You don't understand how much money everyone in this theater is paid, and it's not to hear you sing, dear. It's really not."
Wow. Etiquette. It's,
Yeah.
All right. But the other big thing was we also got to go see Civil War this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually got to go see it with our lovely graphic artist, Sarah, who I hadn't seen in a while.
Yay,
Very
Sarah.
cool. And you saw it like, what, 15 times?
3, and I'd have seen it again yesterday if I wasn't sick, quite honestly, but
I
It
only
was
saw
really
it
good.
once.
It was
Yeah,
really
same
good.
here.
My only critique, because I know we're not really critiquing movies. Yes, we are. We're critiquing movies. Was just that I felt that it was a little bit plot light, and I thought that was a little strange. But I mean, it's based off of like a huge comic book story arc, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was like visually stunning, and the fighting was amazing. But when
See,
it was
but
over,
I love that though. I felt like it was way more personal than what the
And
comic book series was.
yeah, and there was no way to get that comic book into it.
No.
No
No. And besides, the comic book series is not actually that great.
yeah.
Art
And in
was
the end, it created and it created a lot of fuel for a lot of slash fan fiction. So there you go.
Yeah.
Or not.
Well, so we can hopefully expect to see some Marvel stuff at Comic-Con this year, but
Fingers
Considering.
crossed.
but let's go ahead and get into the news, even though it's not a huge week for news.
Which you should be happy about. And speaking of, before we do, I just want to say, round of applause to James, who held down the fort for the last 2 weeks and actually allowed me to have a vacation. So you did a wonderful job of covering. So.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Enough of that. Who cares about
Enough of that. We don't
Enough
have
of
to hear
you.
that.
That's
Okay,
right.
so after the news, we're going to be answering questions. We took some questions on Twitter earlier today, but if you want to ask some questions now, go ahead and use the Google Plus Q&A feature, or tweet us now at SD_comic_con, or use the hashtag SDConCast, and we will take questions in a few minutes.
That's
All
right.
Kerry, why don't you kick us off here?
Sure. One of the big news that got announced last week while I was out is that Conman Season 2 has found a home on Comic-Con HQ, which is the CCI and Lionsgate video on demand service that just launched in beta this week. Right now, Season 1 is not actually available on CCHQ, and it won't be until after the free beta period ends. So that part kind of sucks. But yay, Season 2 is going to be somewhere you can see it.
Easily.
Woo. Easily. And I would also pretty much assume that just about guarantees Conman will be at SDCC.
They already said they were going to be at
Yeah.
Comic-Con.
Yeah. Well, they said it for the game, didn't they?
They were going to premiere the game at Comic-Con.
But I would assume like they'll have a full panel.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what's happening there. Okay. So the next thing is find my place. Ben, what else?
We
What
are
else about
so prepared today, guys.
Super
So
duper prepared.
it? Speaking
So
of,
right. So in addition to that, sorry. Wow, I'm reading over. It's about a contest. Yay, contests. Okay, so Comic-Con HQ has partnered with Her Universe and is having a contest where they're giving away passes to Comic-Con to a lucky winner and their 3 guests, along with airfare, hotel stay, and Comic-Con badges, as well as VIP seating to the Her Universe fashion show, which will be an offsite that will take place during Comic-Con. That's an amazing contest. Yeah.
Yep. And so how do you win this contest, Ben?
By signing up for the beta, and there was some debate about how long that is a possibility. Did we get that clarified?
No.
not yet. The official email from I think it's from Comic-Con HQ or Her Universe. Like the email said 1 week with the official rules, but they've been tweeting, and a second email said 2 weeks. You have to sign up, but just to be safe, sign up by Friday, Saturday, whenever it was. It launched Saturday, so sign up by Friday.
Yeah.
And you'll be entered to win. Everyone who signs up is entered to win that prize package.
So, since we're talking about it, let's talk a little bit about Comic-Con HQ. I mean, I've been out of the state, so I only really got a chance to look at it today. And we asked for some opinions today on Twitter of what people thought. Have you guys had a chance at all to look at it?
I didn't have a chance. I was going to sign up today, and work was too busy to goof off.
I hear that.
I tried really hard to goof off, and it wanted my credit card, and that required an extra amount of commitment I couldn't justify at work.
And I've heard that from several people. I think, like, I get what they're doing by requiring you to put your credit card in before you can access any of it. But I also kind of feel like it's a mistake. Like, if your goal is basically to try to get people to watch your content to want to stay, like, the very first thing you should do is probably not say, like, hey, enter your credit card details, you know?
Absolutely.
I'm not crazy about that. The stuff itself doesn't look terrible. Right now there's not a ton of it. They're basically in beta right now, so there's only a couple shows that are actually live. Most of them are, like, you can go and watch the trailer for what's going to come. Some of it will be debuting in beta, and then some of it, like the first season of Con Man, you won't be able to see until after. There's no panels up yet. About the closest thing they have that I saw was there is about 30 minutes of highlights from the Eisners last year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is that. So I watched a little bit of that. That looks kind of cool. A couple of the shows didn't look too bad to me. There's that Film HQ, which is, as far as I can tell, basically movie talk with John Campea from Collider. It's not really my cup of tea, but a lot of people watch movie talk, and if you like that, I'm sure you'll like Film HQ. The Her Universe fashion show, it's going to eventually be a reality series. The first episode is basically just like showing you last year's runway show in the winter, so it didn't really get into the, like, reality competition aspect of it, but it looks okay. I actually really liked the comics trip, though, which is basically where they're going to have some celebrity take you to a comic book shop every week, and they're just kind of going to talk about what new comics are out, what comics does this person read, that kind of stuff. The first week had Alan Tudyk. It was a pretty good watch. There's some other stuff on there, but that's what caught my eye.
So
they're all pretty short.
Cool.
So basically, being in beta means there's not a whole lot there, and hopefully the content will increase a little bit as we get closer to Comic-Con, because Comic-Con is the cutoff date for the free beta.
Yep. There is, however, an entire category dedicated to ALF.
Yeah!
So
I picked up that ALF poster at WonderCon.
Yes, you did. So if you want to go watch ALF, you could go to Comic-Con HQ.
Now, is this the syndication cuts of ALF or the original cuts? Because
do you really think my knowledge of ALF is that deep?
Everyone's knowledge of ALF should be that deep.
Well, mine is not.
Sorry.
Wait, so then I have to ask a dumb question. When a show that is, I guess, a traditional length TV show, when it goes into syndication, they cut it down further for more commercials?
It depends on the era it came from. Most of the older shows, yes, they are definitely cut because they were longer and they were showing fewer commercials back then. Modern shows, they probably still do a little bit because the local stations like to add in their own stuff in addition to the whatever they have to show, so they like to put in as many commercials as they can, so yeah, it'll get cut.
Gotcha. I was noticing and watching recent Netflix stuff like Kimmy Schmidt and Daredevil, if it was ever going to be on TV. I had no idea how they would do that because they would have to cut a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really long.
Not having the commercials like a lot of the cable networks and now Netflix and Hulu and all that, not having to have commercials has really messed with the standard time frame of TV shows. You know, sitcoms 22 minutes and hour-longs are 42 minutes, and you know, that's just out the window now with these non-commercial based channels. So,
in conclusion, James wants all of the ALF all of the times.
That's right. I'll break out my toys and my comic books and whatever else I happen to not have thrown away yet. Or, you know, I can just go watch the DVDs that I bought. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
That's probably enough about Comic-Con HQ and ALF. So, right. James, why don't you tell us what else is going on?
So what else is going on is parking is continuing. We're in Group 2, which started yesterday morning, and in a little bit different than past years, under the convention center sold out instantly. So there was very little left in Group 2 of under the convention center. I think some people said it lasted till the end of Group 2 or even partially into Group 3 last year. Now either they've altered how many spaces they have available, or they've altered how many people they're letting in per group. Basically, I don't think it would have. I don't think that many different people bought other spots. I think most people go for under the convention center if it's available.
I agree.
So it's one of those two, and it's not available now. I think preview night is the only thing available under the convention center, and I think the Bayfront most likely is going to sell out next. And how long that lasts, we don't know.
Which is interesting because last year the only thing that technically sold out during the groups was the convention center. So
like, if they're lowering the amount of spaces per location that they're doing in the online sale, that means they're going to be allowing more drive-up sales day of, which I didn't think they allowed very many because San Diego doesn't want all that traffic coming in because it would just clog everything up if extra people were coming in looking for parking instead of people who had parking.
And you know what? It may actually not be that at all. It may be that CCI took more for the exhibitors this year. Like, who knows?
Could be.
So.
Yeah. We don't know. Or more exhibitors are buying in the normal parking so they can have employees parking under the convention center. Who knows?
Yep. Time will tell.
Yep. All right. Next up
is, although we've said this before, but you can go onto our site. If you do not have a badge, you're kind of out of luck, but we have a contest hub where you can go on and see various contests and the eligibility to win badges, which at this point is about the only way to get a badge. There's several, though, that are ending in the next week or two. So if you haven't checked that out yet, you should definitely go on there and look. Like, we've got at least 3 right now that you can go on and try for a chance. So
4 of you are going to be very happy, and your friends.
Yes.
4 of you, other roughly 900,000 of you that tried for tickets this year.
Yes.
Well, and something I think as we get closer to the convention itself, there's a bajillion contests, and there's stuff for passes and concerts and screenings and just all kinds of crazy stuff. But I've always been a little jealous of not living in San Diego because I see things like on websites and whatnot of radio shows just giving away like tickets after tickets after tickets, and I'm like, these are sought after. People will kill for these, and you can just like win them on a radio show.
Yep.
The local radio stations, I feel, get the most amount of badges to give away. Yeah. So if you're a local, that is truthfully your best bet. It's too early for it now. But when we get closer, like if you live in San Diego, if you don't have a badge, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast, but listen to the radio shows, and you can maybe score a badge.
Maybe. Also,
awesome.
I think Comic-Con has even tweeted out a few contests in past years.
They have. They did that. Theirs is usually a puzzle.
Right.
And usually, like, the first person to solve it and email them the answer gets the badge.
The badge.
Right. And you guys don't have to take my word for this. I believe myself to be an intelligent person. And in years past, I've seen that tweet, and I, like, open it and close it, and then go back to
right?
They're so hard, but they're always gone like that. Like, CCI will tweet it out, and then, like, 30 seconds later be like, okay, it's over. And I'm always like, I don't even, this is like another language.
Right. You would have, it's like CIA level, like, ciphers, and I'm just all,
right.
I'm just a man.
Somebody has the key slots for putting that key of that puzzle right into their brain, and it just fits. And
Kim figured one out one year.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's way smarter than us.
I've never figured it out.
No.
And I'm not like, I'm not real dumb, but it makes me feel dumb when I see these and someone's like, got that. Like,
I know.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. What else is going on, Ben?
So I have super tangent. So I have been working out more lately, just for myself. I've wanted to get into better shape, and I have a lot of Comic-Con related friends on Twitter, and I was following specifically Corgi Commander, and Corgi Commander basically set himself up with an 80-day challenge for himself to spend the 80 days between now and Comic-Con, which would have been, a couple days back, to get as fit as possible, and I guess just drop some weight, add some stamina, be willing to do the crazy power walking or walking to events or whatnot. And it just seemed like a really good idea, and I was already doing something similar on the side. And then once he started tweeting things, other people seem to have gotten interested, and people are talking about their Fitbits. Corgi and I both just purchased a Fitbit Scale, which communicates with your Fitbit and your profile and kind of tracks your stuff a little bit better. And so basically, if you were looking to be involved and get in better shape in general, or just better shape in time for Comic-Con, we're using the hashtag SDCCFit, and that way you could get some support and just have some people to cheer you on and get fit and, I don't know, have like the most pleasant Comic-Con experience possible. So check it out.
Well, that's really cool.
I thought so. I feel more motivated knowing that other people are doing it, and it's cool to have like people cheering you on or whatever.
Yeah. No,
we've done that locally a few times in the past, and yeah, having a support group definitely works.
So now that we've talked about things that make us happy, what's something that makes us sad?
Oh.
So sad. So the news broke today. Disney announced that they are canceling Disney Infinity. And not just canceling Disney Infinity, but they are no longer making video games in-house, at all, ever. Now, this is sad for me because, as you can see, if you're watching live, you can see my Disney 1, 2, 3. I have 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 figures here to represent all the figures that I bought, which was all of them.
Wow.
And it's very sad. There's going to be a few more releases before June, but with it ending in June, that means there will be no offsite like there was last year.
Which is sad because I've heard nothing but fabulous things about that offsite.
And the game itself and the people that were involved in it were really cool. And it's really sad because they're closing down Avalanche Software, which employed 300 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are unfortunately going to be out of jobs, and hopefully they get jobs somewhere else, or one of the companies that's taking over whatever Disney, with the other companies that Disney works with to produce their games, obviously like Battlefront. So we'll see what happens, but it's very sad. So.
Yeah, bummer.
Poor James.
I'm playing the playsets though. I'm finally playing the game. Not just leveling up characters.
Yeah, how long did you collect those before you started playing?
3 months. Whatever.
I don't think that's
I feel
right.
it was much longer than 3 months.
No, I started in October, November is when I bought the first game, and I started really playing it hard, in February. So
We're both making skeptical face, but okay.
I know. I don't think either of us believe you. But
maybe
sure.
4 months, okay? Whatever.
We'll go with that if you want. We'll go with
Maybe
that
6 months. Who knows?
That I would believe. So, as you might have noticed, it's been a pretty light news week, which is great, really, for me and James. But but hopefully news is going to start coming here pretty quick. And we already know of one thing that's going to be announced this week. The official Monster High social media account started announcing the other day that coming this Friday, to celebrate Friday the 13th, they are going to be announcing this year's Monster High exclusive. It looks to be Ghostbusters related, and as Evik on our team suggested, there's a good chance it might be Slimer's daughter.
Wow.
But we will find that out for sure on Friday, which is awesome because I'm ready to start getting the exclusive news going. We've had a couple of things. We've had like the Hallmark stuff, and we had one Hasbro exclusive
But
announcement.
someone like Mattel is someone who usually releases stuff on a regular pattern once they start.
Bless you, Mattel.
So if they're announcing something this week, that means we can probably expect things coming almost every week from Mattel.
Yeah, and they're really good about once they announce something, they also go ahead and announce like how to pick it up. So we'll find out if they're doing the vouchers again this year, hopefully on Friday as well. So I'm just ready to get this ball rolling.
And
then in about a month, you'll be like, "Stop! No, please!"
Yep. By the end of July, I'll be curled up in a ball, crying.
So I didn't know if Slimer had a daughter. I don't even know if that's a thing. But I think like a Melissa McCarthy doll in Ghostbusters getup sounds pretty cool.
And maybe it is that. It just seems like for it to be Monster High, it has to be monster related, and Slimer is kind of the main quote-unquote monster in Ghostbusters.
Unless it's going to be like the daughter of the Marshmallow Man or something.
Yeah.
But
that'd be really weird.
The daughter of is a really fun subcategory. The daughter of this person, that person.
Did we think though that maybe there are some characters who, do want to remain childless? I mean, are we imposing children on some of these characters?
Right. I want to believe, like, when I create the Ben comic book character, I'll write somewhere in the fine print that once I, like, pass it along and give other people the right to write my character, like, Ben will have no children, period. No long-lost children, no alternate universe children. He'll be an uncle sometimes, maybe.
Maybe. The way to do it. All right. Well, that's really about it, like I said, for the Comic-Con news. Hopefully we'll have some more next week for you guys. So let's take to your questions.
Okay. So use the the Google Plus feature, the Q&A, or you can tweet us at SD_comic_con, or use the hashtag SDConCast, and we will answer your question. But like I said, we did take some questions earlier today, so let's first, the ones we get fairly regularly, so we can answer these all at once.
Yep.
Is no, there is no hotel news yet. The list, nothing has happened. No announcements have been made, and we don't know anything.
Insert shruggy emoji guy.
Yeah, people that have called on peak have been told that they cannot be told where their place is in line. Whether they're even on the wait list, I think, hasn't been answered. There is no timeline for when the wait list will start. The only thing they can be told is if you're on the wait list and your hotel opens up and you're next in line, you will get contacted.
I repeat, insert shruggy emoji guy. The official mascot of the On Peak Comic-Con International Hotel Sale.
So that's the bit. The also other one that we've been asked a few times recently is about a badge resale, and no, there is no badge resale.
And that
we're
was
not
confirmed.
it, because people just don't return badges anymore.
Well, and we're also not expecting it because Comic-Con International said there won't be a
That's
badge resale.
But this year or here in the future, I would expect there to never be a badge resale again.
Yeah,
Because people just don't.
Somebody asked me about it this morning, like if that was ever going to change. And unless something like truly drastic changes with either supply or demand, we're just not going to have badge resales anymore, guys. So.
Right. And the other often asked question is when will we get information about Funko Fun Days? We don't have that.
However, they have said that we will have news sometime this month. So if you are anything like me, you are frantically updating the threads and Twitter and all that. So
and also,
keep doing that.
They also announced that they will be releasing their exclusives soon-ish. For SDCC. I think sometime in June, they said.
Late June.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think
it's all very firm.
Firmly shruggy guy. I think that last year will be the year that we remember fondly as being the one that we were able to get into Funko Days easily, and this one will be the one where we're just like, and it's sold out in a minute.
Yeah, it's going to be yet another crash system, I would assume.
Aww.
We shall
But
see.
Crash.
They do okay because they announce it usually on like their boards first,
Mm-hmm.
and so it kind of like the news slowly trickles out. But we'll see what happens this year.
And I really like the way that they have done their reveals of exclusives in the past. I don't know if it's like that every year, but I loved the year where
waves?
but the year where they had like it was like 36 clues or something, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
They do that every year.
That's fun.
It is fun. And you may have seen online, there have been a couple rumors that we may be getting some Scott Pilgrim Funko exclusives this year.
Oh my god.
We're getting real Scott Pilgrim, like regular Funkos as well, but word on the street is we're getting some variants as well.
So fun Ben fact, because everybody needs those. A couple years ago when I went to see Scott Pilgrim in Tucson at the theater, they gave out these really cool Scott Pilgrim guitar pick keychains, and I had it on my keychain, and I loved it with all of my heart for like 2 or 3 years until it broke off. And then like a crazy person, I took to eBay, and I realized that there had to be somebody somewhere selling these free things and capitalizing. And I found some person who was selling it was like a Ziploc baggie or whatever of 16 of them. So I purchased 16, and every time it breaks off, I just put a new one on. So I'm pretty dedicated.
That's amazing.
Apparently.
Uh,
All
And I love
right.
eBay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so on to the questions. From the real Fred asked, okay, how about any news on food trucks that will be in and around the convention center? Well,
Too
we don't
early.
know a thing.
Too
Yeah, it's-
early. So the deal with food trucks is they're typically always over in the Petco interactive zone, which is basically the parking lot for Petco Park. It's just way too early. Usually we don't get Petco interactive zone info until like maybe 2 weeks before the con, maybe. So too early. Sorry.
Okay. There you go.
Next up, we have from Super FF7 fan. Would it also be great to talk about the different locations at SDCC for first-timers, the Sales Pavilion, Hall H, and such? Well, for first-timers, I think it's going to be complete madness for you, especially if you've never been to a larger convention.
But you know what? We all do. Like, every year there's first-timers. We were all first-timers at one point. You make it
And
through.
we have a lot of guides on our site,
Yes.
SDCCblog.com. And so you can check those out to get familiar. And as a first-timer, what you want to do is what we always suggest. You just make sure you plan. Pick the general rule is pick one thing that you want to do each day.
And then have a backup plan.
Right, and have a backup for that. But and have multiple things that you want to do, but pick one thing that is the thing. And that way, if you get that accomplished and you have time, you can do other things. But you get that one thing done, and you feel good about having accomplished that one thing. If that something goes wrong there, you have something as a backup to get to. It just depends on what that thing is as to how much time you have to put in towards it. If it's like, hey, I want to go walk the show floor, anybody can do that with a badge. So I mean, it's going to take however long you feel like walking. But if it's, I want to get into the Marvel panel that they're doing, if they're holding one this year on Saturday evening, then, hey, that may require just a bit more time commitment.
Tiny amount more. And if when it gets closer, if you have questions like that, like how much time do you think I need to dedicate to do XYZ, we always answer those kinds of questions on our Breaking Down the Schedule podcast, which we'll do. The full schedule should start coming out. I think it's
2
July.
weeks before, so.
I think it's July 7th. I think that's that Thursday. It might be a day off on my dates, but it's that Thursday is when the schedule will start coming out. But right now, it's just way too early to answer those questions because everything depends on what's around it. So, like, maybe the panel you want to go to is not going to be that popular, but the thing after it is going to be hugely popular. So you just kind of have to look at the big picture, and it's just a little too early to do that. But, like James said, you can go onto our site and read all of our guides. We've tried to make a ton of helpful guides with, like, maps and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
Also, if you're interested in the exclusives, on our pages for each individual major manufacturer, we have how to obtain those exclusives typically.
Yes.
How their booth system works, depending on how whether it's a ticketing system or whatnot, whether it's available online to purchase in advance, those kind of things.
Yeah, and we also do the same thing for autographs. We talk about like how each individual autograph is going to work. So the best thing that you can do to be prepared for San Diego Comic-Con, quite honestly though, is just do your research.
Yeah.
Because there's no like one-size-fits-all answer to answer, quite frankly, any question.
And if you've been to a convention before and you know the things that you enjoy to do, just research those things and how people do them here. It's basically the same thing. It's just on a much grander scale with a lot more people trying to do the same thing.
Yep. Agreed. Glennie, Englishman SDCC, asked, where did the blog team head to around San Diego? Do you just come into town for the con and leave, or stick around to relax? And I responded to him earlier on Twitter and said, what's this word, relax? But maybe you guys have some different answers.
Go ahead, Ben.
So I come in from Arizona, and so hotels are kind of pricey, and so I usually limit my amount of time at the convention to the convention. So I usually arrive Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, and then I usually leave Sunday night, and that way, I'm not paying for extra days of hotels. But while I'm there, I do the convention, I do offsites. Try to catch up with friends, and really I go hard for days and then I go home and get sick. That's my plan.
I mean, that's pretty much my plan. I always get in Wednesday morning. I usually leave Sunday night or Monday morning. I am being an idiot this year, though, and I've scheduled like 2 extra days to go straight on Monday morning to Disneyland, because that's going to end well. I'm going to totally have the energy for that. But what about you, James?
Well, I live 90 minutes away from San Diego, so I go down there somewhat regularly, so I can do things already. So typically for Comic-Con itself, I do the same because it is expensive. So I head down on Wednesday at some point and stay. Typically I stay till Monday because, as you say, you're just too tired, and it's a chore to pack up on Sunday morning when you're trying to do other things for the convention. And then, but this year we're doing that because we wanted to save a little bit of money. So we're going to head out on Sunday night after the Shield party. At Henry's, and then, but while we're there, we are slowly becoming, or at least personally, I'm slowly becoming an old man, and there is less nighttime stuff happening. So, go get dinner and hang out with friends, and then go try and get some sleep is usually my mode of operation, because I tend to get up really early and to either cover something or to go get in line somewhere.
Yeah, that's usually me. I actually did some parties last year, and that was not smart. Let me just tell you that going to line up on the Hall H lawn at midnight when you're still drunk is not that fun, especially when you're thinking, oh, it's California, like I don't need a jacket.
Oh.
And then you try to huddle for warmth underneath a blog T-shirt. Don't do that, kids.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
No. Prepare for that overnight if you're going to be sleeping in a line outside, because it actually does get pretty chilly.
Yeah, it really did. So that's my advice. MN Sauls 91 said, I'm a first-year attendee and a first-time volunteer. What advice do you have to making the most out of Con Week?
That was the same advice as earlier, but as a volunteer, you're going to have a job to do, and it is going to affect how you plan for the convention, because you will do your shift and you will have access to the convention for the rest of that day. So basically, assume that you're not going to get into any of the big rooms for panels because you won't be able to get in line in time. So try and make the most out of the things you can get access to quickly, like the show floor, looking around at whatever panels maybe don't have the horrendous lines, whatever off-sites there may be, even though you can go to the off-sites without a badge in some cases. Some of them do require a badge. So maybe as a volunteer, that badge, I'm pretty sure those badges will get you into all the off-sites that day. So you can plan your day to include all of the off-sites that go into the night, which will extend the value of your volunteer badge.
Very good advice.
So Jason G888 asks, any news how Funko is going to set the line this year, and how will RFID affect exclusive hunting? That's two completely different questions, but let's answer the Funko one first.
The Funko one, Funko tweeted the other day that they are meeting with Comic Con International here in the next couple weeks to sort that out. They've said that they're pretty sure it's going to be up in the sales pavilion. They also, thankfully, told someone the other day that the ticket distribution wouldn't be quite as random as last year, which I think if you've read anything we've written on the site, you know we weren't really a fan of their ticket distribution system last year. But the good news is basically that they appear to have heard people's complaints and that they're going to be changing it. So I would fully expect them to be up in the sales pavilion. I don't think we're going to hear about what their system is until at the earliest late June when they start announcing their exclusives, though. But we will see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're watching, I was talking to somebody earlier about Emerald City and how they did their ticket distribution there, and I'm not that well versed on it, but if you are watching, whoever you are, please feel free to speak up and tell us how that went down, because I don't believe it went over great. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think it might have been this person who asked the question, possibly.
I think it might have been as well.
The next one is, how will RFID affect exclusive hunting? Optimally, it will not make any difference at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all it should do is possibly slow down the speed of people entering the floor. But since everyone enters the floor from the same line first, it just means that they'll go into the floor slower. It doesn't mean that some people will get ahead of others, unless, of course, their badge fails. But hopefully there's a way to check your badge initially before you get in the line to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
But I think that's all it will do.
I think so too, and I think at least this year, like, I don't expect any of the booths to have access to the RFID information, so I don't think they're going to be like scanning your badge for RFID to enter you to like see if you win an exclusive like at Lego or something. I don't anticipate that happening this year. Do you?
Well, they've always had the barcode to do that with.
Yeah, they'll have the barcode, but it won't be like through the RFID.
Right. So I don't see any changes really. It just may slow down the speed of people entering the floor. But the same people in the same order will still get in. If you were first in line, the RFID badge is not going to stop you from entering first.
Yeah.
So I don't see. That's the only change I can see.
Yeah, I agree with that. Omar Hassa just asked on Twitter, when should I start looking for more SDCC sweepstakes? So we talked about this a little bit ago with the contest, but there's a couple right now. There will be more as we get closer, but a lot of those are going to be like the local San Diego kind of things. But basically just keep an eye out on that contest hub that's on our website. Any contest that we see, we're going to be throwing in there. That's about what I have for you.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So from earlier today, the real Fred again asked, how can Kerry get a raise for all the hard work she does for all of us in terms of SDCC? Well,
Not gonna happen.
I think someone mentioned pug pictures.
Aww.
More pug pictures will be a raise, so just more of them. That's a raise.
Yeah.
There we go. It is my personal mission in life this year to make the blog be 15% more sarcastic. So that's a raise.
No.
Totally.
What?
I mean,
It
was okay. It was all right.
All right, so I want to take the opportunity to toot Kerry's horn for her, just because for anybody who doesn't know, Kerry is of course our editor, and this work that she does it's all basically volunteer based. She loves Comic-Con. She loves you guys. She loves helping people have the best Comic-Con experience possible. And when it's over, she's a husk of a person. And so
that is an accurate statement.
So a raise is not so out of the question, but I mean, more than 0 is like 1. So yeah, pug picture.
$1.
I got $1 in my pocket.
I'll give you $1.
Well, and real quick, I just wanted to say, for anybody wondering, the blog does make a little bit of money, but what you guys don't understand is like all the money we make goes back into the blog or the party or things like that. Like, we're going to be doing like a couple of really cool things for prize mule this year, so like all the money we make goes into that. Like, we are poor.
Yeah.
So good times.
All right, so someone on Twitter asked about our party. Is the event strictly a bar social night, or is it an evening of ongoing events?
What?
Can it be both?
It's both. It is a bar social night for sure. There is alcohol being served. This year you have to buy your own.
Drinking is optional.
And yes, and an evening of ongoing events, yes, because we give prizes away and we run around and try and chat with as many people as possible. And people come and go. So it's both. An evening. And so we're giving stuff away all day. Everyone who shows up is going to get something. We have a goodie bag planned, and we're hoping to fill it with all kinds of cool stuff.
Yes, and I'm not ready to start announcing exactly who all's going to be in there, but let's just say that the 2 companies who I wanted the most are at least like 99% on board.
Sweet.
Very
so.
Cool.
We had very, very, very generous sponsors last year, and it made for awesome grab bags and raffles and all that good stuff.
Yes.
So that's what you can expect with the party.
Yes. Melanie Payne just asked on Twitter, don't know if you guys would know this or not, but do exhibitor badges get access to panels too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so actually, Pink Bunny R asked last week. She mentioned it was interesting hearing about the press badges when we talked about that a couple weeks ago, and wanted to hear about the other types of badges. So let's cover that just a little bit.
Sure.
Exhibitor badges get you access to the show floor where the exhibitors sell whenever that opens, and typically that's anywhere from, I think, a half hour to 2 hours early, depending on the day. So you can get onto the show floor early, and it lets you stay a half hour to an hour later, I think it is. I don't remember. I haven't had an exhibitor badge since I helped with California Browncoats 6 years ago, so I don't know what the current times are. But it's a little bit before and a little bit after, and that is the only benefit of an exhibitor badge. They don't give you any extra access, but they also don't take away any access. So you can go to panels, you can go to offsites. It's just you're an exhibitor, so you get that extra time to set up your booth or close it down. A professional badge, basically it's a regular badge. I don't know if they still have it, but there used to be a pro lounge like the Con Suite, but it was for professionals only, and I don't know if they still have it. But that, I think, was really the only difference. Do they get into the floor early?
I don't think they get onto the floor early. The only real benefit to getting a pro badge is basically that it's in its own separate sale, so that you're not competing in like open registration for the badge.
For the pro itself, it's free.
For I want to say for creative professionals, it's free.
Right,
For trade
yes.
professionals, it's not.
Right, and so a certain number of guests, I think, also are free. They give away
Yes.
a certain number of guest badges, and then from a certain point on, for however many that were available, you have to pay for that extra guest badge.
Correct. So, but that
So
truthfully,
basically, it has no
yeah.
no extras.
Right. Like I said, the biggest benefit is basically just that it's its own separate sale, so you're not competing like in open registration with other people. So.
Right. And all access is just like it sounds. There are actually very few of those because it's basically the people who run the show that have all access badges.
Yep.
And they are allowed to go almost anywhere. But believe it or not, only certain of those all access badges are actually even allowed on the show floor after it closes. All people running Comic-Con can't go onto the show floor whenever they feel like. Only certain ones. They do have a lot of rules in place to make sure that everything is ordered and everyone has a place to go. If they're not supposed to be going on the show floor, they don't have access to that. So, people that run panels, their access is geared towards things like that. But the people running the show are the ones with the all access badges.
Have we ever seen one? Are they jewel encrusted? Do we just assume that they are?
No, they don't even look like super spiffy or anything. They're not like this big gold-plated, shining beacon neon thing. They're just
Badges.
They're just the most powerful badge that you can ever think of existing.
Aw, that's disappointing.
But yeah, those. So that's the. I mean, and like Kerry mentioned, there's the trade pro and the creative pro, and those are two separate, but they're basically the same thing. And then there's the panelists, which I think get pro badges, but I
feel like they actually get a badge that says like panelists, but I might be totally making that up.
They're kind of like pros because they're going in for a panel, and it used to be that whoever runs a panel got a certain amount of them to give out to the panelists plus their guests, and it was. I think they definitely curtailed that because I recall when we ran a panel for the Browncoats when we did our first Dr. Horrible panel, it was something like we could have gotten with both the ones for panelists and the ones for their guests, we could have gotten something like 25 or 30 badges.
Wow.
Which just seems crazy, we invited a lot of guests and we could have used a few of them, but we obviously didn't even use all of them. So I think they've definitely curtailed that too. Like I think you probably have to have names now, people you're inviting, so that they can give them a badge. I don't know how it runs now. Again, since I haven't done it in so many years. But yeah, so that's the different badges. So thank you, Pink Bunny, for asking that question.
Yeah.
And the last question we had from Twitter earlier was Melt of the Pain asked, best experiences versus worst experiences. Also, any word on MTV Party in the Park? Do the easy one first, Kerry.
Any word on MTV Party in the Park? No, but as soon as we got this question earlier, I did actually shoot an email off to my contact at MTV Party in the Park to see what was happening. So if we hear back, I will let you know.
There you go.
Ben, why don't you tell us what your best and your worst experience at Comic-Con was?
Oh, geez. I think we talked, or last time I was on, I think I talked about this. Off the top of my head, I think one of my best experiences was the Scott Pilgrim movie screening with Metric and the whole cast and everything. That was absolutely amazing. Loved that. And then worst experience, I haven't had a ton of bad experiences. I think the only year at Comic-Con that I have skipped in 15 years was 2011. And I think 2010, I just had one of those years with a lot of bad luck. I had like a not-so-great hotel, and I don't think I planned my schedule super great, and I think that The lines that I picked, I was like just short of getting into rooms a couple of times after waiting hours, and so I got very upset, and I tried to show Comic-Con by skipping 2011. And really all I did...
Did you teach them a lesson?
Nope. I taught myself a lesson that staying at home is stupid and makes you very sad. So now I plan better, and that's really my only like bad experience, I could say. Definitively bad.
What
How about you
about
guys?
Yeah, what about you, James?
I honestly, the worst experience, I can't really think of any specific thing. In general, the only time that I've had a really bad experience is when I have been just so run down and tired that nothing is fun.
Yeah.
And that usually happens sometime on late Saturday or Sunday. And so there have been a few Sundays where I have spent part of the day just like being depressed about not going and having any fun. And over the last few years, if you've seen the photos, I take a lot of statue photos now, and I think that's a good thing, that it helps my Sunday now. If I know I'm just going to be walking around the show floor for a few hours taking photos and just kind of, being in that focused Zen place of not worrying about getting in a line somewhere or any of that, and that's really helped. So I really haven't had a worse experience except for the general fatigue of doing the show and being on that fifth day. Best experience, I mean, I'm never going to stop going back to the Star Wars panel last year.
I'm shocked. Shocked to hear this.
That was just incredible. Come on. Oh, man,
You've never talked about this, James.
All right, look. Let me switch and do another one then, because if you've ever seen the fan-made movie Done the Impossible, you will see me in that movie, and you will see me at the Brown Coat booth in 2005 when they were interviewing Joss, with me standing right next to him while I was helping to run that booth and listening to him talk for 20 minutes. And I mean, literally standing right next to him. I come in and out of frame as I'm helping people, and that was pretty incredible. He just stood back there and stood right next to me and talked on camera for 20 minutes, and then proceeded to try and make his way out of the booth and made it to the end of the booth before everyone who had been watching kind of just moved right over there and formed a line, and he signed for 45 minutes.
Aww.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Joss is the coolest, and that's probably, yes, that's in the top best experiences of the convention, just because I've said Star Wars too often. So there.
How about you, Kerry?
My best experience was actually related to Joss Whedon as well. A couple years ago when they were doing that Firefly reunion panel, my superpower is that I can sleep anywhere, anytime. So we were in line for the Ballroom 20 line. It was like, I don't know, 11 o'clock. So I'd been hanging out with these guys all night, even though I was by myself, and I fell asleep. And apparently, like 2 minutes after I fell asleep, here comes Joss Whedon down the line. And we were pretty close up front, so I know for a fact, like, I was the first one this happened to. But apparently, the guys who I was with and Joss Whedon were like, this is going to be amazing. He's just going to lean down here to take a photo. We'll take a photo, like, with her camera, and when she wakes up, we'll show it to her. But because it's Joss Whedon, he leans down to do it, and there's a crowd of people around us, okay? So I'm not wearing my glasses. I wake up. There are flashes of light going off everywhere because people are, like, taking photos of this happening. And there's a face right here, and Joss goes, guys, you ruined it! She's awake! So I, like, am kind of like, what in the world is happening? So I sit up, I put on my glasses. There's Joss Whedon. The guys I was with are, like, cracking up. They show me this photo, and it's literally, like, me, like, kind of waking up and looking up, and Joss, like, right here. So that was, like, the most Comic-Con moment possible, though.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was really cool. My worst experience was probably just a disappointment a couple years ago. I camped out for a really long time for I was going to try for the Avengers signing, and I knew ahead of time, like, this isn't going to happen, but I camped out for a very long time. And I was pretty close up front in the line, but I think Who knows? Either exhibitors on the floor just got in line in front of us, or another line made it there first. Who knows? But we were, by the time we got to the booth, like, we were so far back, I didn't even get to draw, and that was just very disappointing. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. And
no
that's just
bummer.
what you got to take with Comic-Con.
Yeah, and I think that, James, that kind of came up when I was on before we did the Q&A and we had Kim on. I was just sort of marveling at how the exhibit floor does what the exhibit floor does, and not, being negative and not, calling anybody out or anything, but it's just amazing to get into the hall and having been so towards the front of the line, and you get into the exhibit hall and there's thousands of people, and you're like, where the hell did you come from? Like, you weren't in my line. So yeah,
And the
I've
thing
been
is,
there.
like, you never know. Like, did another line get in a minute earlier? Is it just, like, other people, other exhibitors? Like, you will never know.
No.
Yeah. Unless you're on the floor yourself, from when the exhibitors can first get in, and you just sit there and watch everything, and by then you can't participate.
Yeah. So.
I wonder what those people who do have those rooms that they can see the show floor from above. I wonder if they sit there and watch everything happen as it starts.
I'd
I'd like to get in that room one day. And
Well,
just watch the show start.
I mean, I link to it privately, like, in the chat all the time, but one of my favorite, like, what in the world videos from last year, quite honestly, is someone took an Instagram, one of the exhibitors took an Instagram video of, like, the Funko people standing by the door handing out their tickets for their exclusives, and it just looks like the running of the bulls. Like, when people start coming in, like, everybody's running past the Funko guy because nobody knows what it is. Like, it just looks like madness. And you just know that's what it's got to look like to the exhibitors. It's just like, oh god, here they come.
Just like all the fast zombies just infecting an area, just all through the lines and going to the Warner Brothers or the Funko or Mattel or wherever they're headed, just doing all that stuff, just like whoosh.
It's just madness.
The Funko booth still gives me anxiety. Like, I am a rabid collector, as you may have noticed, and I've toured the facility. I want to consider myself an unofficial brand ambassador, which is not true at all. And I've been able to go into the booth, I think, once or twice, like on a Sunday, when it's like the slimmest of saddest pickings, and I'm just all, but I'm here, and that's what matters.
It's just supply and demand. I mean, just like everything at Comic-Con. But I really am hopeful that if they move to sales, like, it will become a little bit better.
I need to find a boyfriend who works at Funko. That's my goal. That's all.
That's your life goal. That's a good life goal.
It's a small goal.
It's not that much to ask, is it?
No.
Totally not.
All right, so we have a question from Rob Sibold on the Q&A. How long does it take you all to recover from SDCC?
6 months. I'm not sure I'm joking.
I know, right? All right, so Ben, how long does it take you?
I would say physically is a week. I think after a week I'm okay, but I don't know if we've ever even talked about this. That's kind of weird if we haven't, but I get a really, really bad case of Comic-Con blues after Comic-Con is over. Just
Ennui.
because, right.
So it's called Conwy.
Conwy, yes. My Conwy is rivaled by none, and it's just like the sensory overload and just so many like sights and sounds and getting to be around so many like happy, fun, like-minded people, and then you go back to your real life, and surprisingly, my real life is nothing like Comic-Con.
No.
And so it takes me, I would say, it probably takes me about 3 weeks to a month to get back to normal, to get over my Conwy. How about you guys?
What about you, James?
I'd say it's about the same. I usually spend the week after. I usually take Monday off because I know that there's no way I will actually function on Monday. which again, it's crazy that Kerry's going to Disneyland.
I'm an idiot.
And if our passes were good that day, we'd be there too.
I know you
doesn't matter
would.
how tired we are. But we typically on the Monday after, it's like roll out at like 10 or 11 and get some brunch and kind of just make your way home and then just kind of crash and then basically try and get through work that week and spend as much time on the internet going over all the stuff that you missed, going over the stuff that you saw and just want to relive. And then, and Conway has gone up and down for me over the years. Sometimes it hits really hard and sometimes it's not that bad. But yeah, definitely just I wish I could do this a little bit more often kind of a feeling. I'd say about that. And then, Kerry, when you give your answer, we'll talk about the actual full recovery. So why don't you give your answer?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I'm gonna be an idiot by going to Disneyland on Monday because usually on Monday, like, I'm a zombie. And I think it takes me about 2 weeks to physically recover. But it takes usually the thing is with the site, since we write so much about it, like our job is not technically over once Comic-Con is over. There's usually like 2 to 3 weeks of like wrap up stuff, and I'm usually like really gung ho up to that point. But as soon as the wrap-up stuff is done, like, I don't want to talk about Comic-Con. I don't want to think about Comic-Con. I don't want to do any of it for quite a while.
Right.
That's my
that's
answer.
kind of what I want to talk about is we basically shut down about Comic-Con after the wrap-up stuff. And it
was a lot longer and worse this year.
Yeah, and I think it just goes in ebbs and flows, but it may have been all the work we did on the party, starting off with such a huge undertaking on Wednesday night that kind of just informed how we were just that much more tired, especially with all the things we were doing throughout the week.
Yeah.
So that may have led to it, but I think all of us in general felt at the end of last year, and it took us more time to be re-energized.
I'm telling you, it took like 6 months. It took until like January.
Yeah.
Before we were like, yeah, okay, we'll do this again.
I'm gonna be re-energized anytime now, I swear.
Still waiting for that day to come.
Oh, I'm so glad we have Rob now.
Yeah. So.
Yes. God bless you.
And so, I mean, and it's probably becoming that way for people who don't spend a lot of time writing about it and covering it and all that, and with all of the news and trying to keep track of all the sales, and I'm sure it's wearing people down more and more, just who are just attending.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people are probably more tired about Comic-Con, and the thing is that, I mean, what are you going to do about it? It's such an amazing show. It's worth a lot of that work.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, as exhausting as it is, and dear God, we are exhausted by the end of it. It's always worth it, and especially, I'm gonna sound like I'm pandering, but especially like seeing you guys, our readers, like at the event. You have no idea how awesome it is for like to me and James, and I'm sure Ben and everybody else on the site, like for you guys to come up to us and be like, "We love what you do. Thank you." Like. You guys make it worth it.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome, and this was like my first, year on the staff, and so it was my first attending of the party, and I was like blown away that people knew my name. I was like, what? How do you know my name?
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
It's weird.
It was really nice though. It made me feel good.
It's really cool. I appreciate it whenever someone comes up and says, they read the blog, that that they watch the podcast or listen to it. I'm always surprised. It's always surprising to me that someone listens and reads, and
Same.
I'm thankful for every one of you that does.
Me too.
So I like how we ended that. That was a good place to end.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on and wrap up and and get
Yeah.
ready for the next week.
So, like we mentioned, and as we've mentioned several hundred times, our party, Enchantment Under the SDCC, is back at Henry's Pub this year on preview nights. It's free and first come, first serve. We're going to have so much awesome stuff for you guys. We have been very busy working on getting raffle prizes and goodie bag giveaways and all kinds of awesome stuff for you guys, so we should have some more to announce about that soon.
All right, and this year we are teaming up with Uber. I think we did last year also.
Yeah.
With ride code SDCCUblog, you get $20 off your first Uber ride.
And sign up for our newsletter. The link is in the show notes. That's the weekly newsletter we send out with all of the news as it comes out. It's a nice condensed version of the site.
And now that I am home, that newsletter will actually start going out again. It hasn't the last 2 weeks. What? Whoops. There's lots of other news on our site in our Under the Tents column.
And, okay, so thank you all, as we mentioned, for listening and for joining us today. We hope you join us every week. We're going to be here with news, opinions, special guests leading up to San Diego Comic-Con 2016. Ben, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at @HelloBK. And Kerry, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me at Kerry Dixon. You can also find me writing on the site every day between now and Comic-Con because I have used up my vacation time.
She is not leaving again.
Nope.
Not.
Nope. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I am everywhere on the internet at Dan Riegel. And you can also check out geekshotphoto.com for photos that my wife and I take.
And they are some awesome photos. We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, links are up on the blog, or search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We are also on Stitcher Radio. The link is in the show notes.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for listening, and everybody, go
Shawarma!
Infinite sadness.